Hi everybody, friends, and now my virtual family from YouTube channel and Jeffrey's Journey and Legacy Foundation. So I want to share with you at this moment a story that we went through that has to do with hospitals and rehabilitation centers. This story is going to be about neglect and totally I care less type of deal, just like lack of care. So this is how it goes. We were at this hospital. This hospital was in Galveston. This was a UTMB hospital in Galveston, and we were spending there quite some time, like 2 months. One day, they come and tell us that there was no longer formula for Jeffrey. The formula that he had to take every day to feed him through the feeding tube, because that was the only way that he could eat. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the story really quick. There was a nurse. They have nurse that there's nurse that they belong, that they're nurses. They work for UTMB hospital, and then they are staffing nurses, contract nurses. And I learned that for sadly most of the times, these nurses, for most of the time, in my case, what we experienced were just awful, terrible. Well, in this case, this young nurse came to finally let us know that she found a bottle, a can, to feed Jeffrey. Mind you, at this time has passed for sure, 48 hours that Jeffrey has not eaten. And Jeffrey, can you imagine eating very little by feeding tube, just liquids pretty much, and not eat for 48 hours? I mean, seriously? So at that point, my husband and I were super excited that at least they found a can of formula and they were going to feed Jeffrey. So she immediately started logging in the computer, and we have never seen her before. And she started to start putting the amount of formula on the feeding machine, on the bag for the feeding machine, to go through timing through the little hose that go through the tube straight to his stomach. So I said to her, hold on, please don't do that. I said, we are not feeding Jeffrey that way at all. We are feeding him bolus. She said, excuse me? But she had an attitude like right away. She was the type of nurses that pretty much you feel right away that you cannot even approach them. You feel fear to approach them because and this happened to me many times, that with certain nurses, that you feel that approaching them, even when they're sitting down in their desk on their phone, and they're on their phone, and you see that they're on social media, you cannot approach them because they are going to be bothered by you. And this case, this one, it was one of those ones. Don't bother me. I do what I do. You suck it up. Don't tell me anything. So I come and I said, please don't do that. Don't do that. We're feeding him by bolus. She said, this is bolus. And I said, well, technically, at that moment, I got confused, right? I said, well, the term right now that we're using for bolus is that we are basically getting like a huge syringe and his hose of the feeding tube, and we are pouring the 280 mLs of formula directly that goes by gravity, bolus by gravity, straight to his stomach. She said, I'm not doing that. She said, I'm not doing that. This is the way I'm going to do it. I said, no. I said, there is a reason why we're doing bolus feeding for Jeffrey this way. And we have been working with Jeffrey doing this type of bolus feeding for quite some time right now. And there is a reason behind. And the reason is because the rehabilitation center, the neuro facility, and that he is going next, one of the conditions is that Jeffrey has to be fed by bolus, by gravity, like that. And that's the way you can go over there to the floor and ask all the nurses how they have been feeding Jeffrey. I said, look in the system, because the doctor has put it in the system. She said, it said bolus, but this is bolus too. And my husband said, he was on the speakers, my husband said, could you please just ask? She said, I'm not feeding him right now. I am not going to feed him. That's it. I'm not feeding him because you're saying one way, I'm going to feed him a different way that you guys don't want and don't like, and that's it. I'm not feeding him. So at that moment, knowing how hungry is Jeffrey, the type of patient is Jeffrey, is a super brain damaged patient that nutrition is vital for his recovery, that has no eating for 24 hours. I mean, what kind of crime at that level, what kind of abuse? That was abuse. That was not neglect. That was abuse, borderline criminal at that moment. And my husband and I, at that second, we both basically not screaming, but basically desperately, we said to her, please, feed him in whatever way you want. Just feed him in whatever way you want. It's okay, but please, I beg you, we beg you, feed my son that he has not eaten. And she said, no. And she said, no, I won't. And my husband tried to talk to her. And somehow, I guess that she has heard that my husband was Jeffrey's stepdaddy. And she said, basically, you're not here. She literally said, you're not here. You have nothing to say. Just like that. And then she said, oh, by the way, now you're going to have to wait to the next nurse that will come at night. And they're going to have to wait and consult to the physicians. And actually, the physician is going to be working at night shift in the ER. And so I don't even know, she said, at what time this problem is going to be resolved. Just like that. And she turned around and left the room. I wish that I could have that bottle and feed my child. But I was terrified at that moment how UTMB, doctors, and staff, administration, I want to say, were behaving that I don't know what to expect with them. They have been bullying me. They have been emotionally intimidating me. They have been pretty much harassing me. They have been horrible. So I go straight down to the first floor, to the office of the relationship with the patient family, whatever that they call. I went to this lady, young lady, almost crying, told her the story step by step. She was writing. She started crying. She told me that this was awful, that this was unacceptable. Oh, later we find out, because the main doctor told us that it was a lie, what she said, that this type of doctors like them, they never work shift nights on the ER. So that was a lie. So she did it only to mess up emotionally and psychological with us at that time, at that moment. And so they went and they said that they were going to do an investigation. I told her that I was absolutely determined to press charges against, not the hospital, against her for a fact. And so, long of the story ended that past, I don't know how many days, where I thought that it was going to be a big thing for the hospital and the supervisor of the floor, etc., came back to tell me that after the case has been examined, this nurse has said that everything that she did was in consideration, taking in account the best for the best of the patient. At that moment, everything needs to be put in hold because there was confusion about how he was supposed to be fed. And so it was for the best of the patient. She determined that she had to not feed him. And then threat us and lie to us and basically mock us and all that. And that was it of the story. And sadly to say, this is what happened in hospitals. Because I have another story like that also. Maybe even a little bit worse. I want that you guys, when I give you the email that is being set up right now, for you to send me stories that you're going through in hospitals or you have gone through in hospitals of neglect or whatever type of situation, and that you send me a video up to 20 minutes sharing with me your story, and we're going to start building up a tsunami of stories of the disaster that is, and this I'm being nice, the disaster that has become our, what I call now, our hell not care system. Bye.